Okay, welcome to City of Grand Rapids Planning Commission meeting on June 12, 2025. Before we get into conflict of interest and public hearings, I'll just go briefly through our procedures and how things are going to go today. First, we will have our staff representative come up and give a report on the cases. Then the applicants will have an opportunity to come up and fill in any gaps. I'll open the public hearing. Anyone who is here from the public that wants to address the commission can come up to the microphone and do so for up to 3 minutes. Then after I close the public hearing, the applicant will have an opportunity to respond to any public comments, and then we'll move into commission deliberation. I want to recognize that we're streaming on Facebook and YouTube, and then just a reminder, staff does put together draft resolutions for us to use as we choose, both with findings both for and against, so nothing is predetermined. Okay, now going back to our agenda, we'll do conflict of interest. Any conflicts of interest today? All right, seeing none, then we'll move into our first case, 411 Fuller Avenue Southeast. But Elizabeth, I think we're going to just cover both staff reports in one.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think you could combine the public hearing for all the folks that are here.
Okay.
To speak on the matter, but I think I'd like to present them together, and then you could probably do a single public hearing, but your decisions will need to be separate. So Dwelling Place is proposing a project of 2 attached single-family homes, and that will be on 411 Fuller and 417 Fuller Southeast. And those properties are shown in green on this slide, and you can see that the aerial photo here. The properties are vacant, except for a portion of the 411 property that is improved with some surface parking. And so to facilitate their project, they're pursuing a partial rezoning, which would facilitate its combination with the property to the north, and also then they'd be doing a lot line adjustments to construct the dwelling units. So with that background, here are our 2 properties. They're 2 residential properties of the same size. You can see on this survey there is concrete on a portion of one of them. The remainder is vacant, and you can see there's nothing constructed on that. The 2 properties are currently in the TN LDR zone district. And the portion, the northerly portion of 411 Fuller, about 25 feet, I'll zoom in a little bit, about 25 feet of 411 Fuller is proposed to be rezoned to TBA, and then it would be combined with 1154 Wealthy to the north. Right now, this property, we can't allow 411 Fuller to be split and then partially combined with 1154 Wealthy because it's not in the same zone district. So this northerly 25 feet is proposed for rezoning, and then it would be combined with 1154 Wealthy. And that really is the rezoning portion. I'll go on to the 2 units, and I'll be happy to answer any questions after I discuss that. So After the northerly 25 feet of 411 Fuller would be rezoned, there would be a lot combination and split to facilitate this new project. Dwelling Place is proposing 2 attached single-family residences, and today we're only talking about one element of those residences, and that's actually a parking waiver. In this configuration, and because the property is vacant, the attached single-family form is allowed by right. So no special approval is needed for these 2 dwelling units. It will be reviewed administratively. But Dwelling Place is asking for a waiver of all required parking for the 2 new units. Each dwelling unit, each attached single-family dwelling unit requires 2 parking spaces. And they'll be able to explain to you why, but they are asking that you not require that those 4 parking spaces be constructed. The slide on the screen right now shows what the ultimate site layout would be. Each new lot would be about 28 feet wide, and off the top of my head now, I don't remember the width of the dwelling units, but I'm sure I'll be able to find it on the next slide. But it is proposed that each dwelling unit would have a side yard setback of just over 10 feet. As shown with this configuration, there is inadequate lot area for a driveway on each side. A driveway is required to be 10 feet wide, and then it would need to be 11 feet, and then it would need to be 1 foot from the lot line. So you do need at least 11 feet for a driveway. I don't believe that that's the reason why parking isn't being proposed here, but if what the Planning Commission should consider is that 2 new attached single-family dwelling units are being proposed on a vacant lot, and whether the new structures should be designed to accommodate the required parking is part of your calculation. So as shown here, it wouldn't be possible on each lot. However, there are opportunities for other configurations or designs of the structure. As I mentioned, we aren't reviewing the details of the structure, but that is something that you might want to be aware of in your decision making. And it looks like each dwelling unit is about 18 feet wide and 38 feet deep. Here's a front view. Something else I wanted to mention was the parking occupancy on Fuller. I want to clarify our lots are about right here where I'm showing you on the screen. And although the parking occupancy is showing as green Actually, there is no parking here. There's a bus stop immediately in front of the subject property, and there's no parking. So I think maybe when the survey was done, it showed that parking was available because there is no parking allowed. On the other side of the street, there is parking permitted, but it is, pardon me, but there are a number of curb cuts for driveway approaches, and there's an alley. When I took a screenshot here, it looks like the legend didn't show up, but actually, it looks like, if I recall correctly, the occupancy on Sigsbee around the corner is 55 to 75% occupied. And I think it's actually, if I recall correctly, closer to the 50 than the 75%. And then over on the other side of Fuller on Sigsbee, it looks like there's more parking available. Oh, there it is. I didn't need to remember. So we do have 50 to 75% occupied on Sigsbee west of Fuller, but when I pulled up the actual percentages, it was around, between 50 and 60%. So in sum, we are looking at two projects, the rezoning of about 25 feet, the northerly 25 feet of 411 Fuller from the TN-LDR to the TN-TBA zone district. That property would be split off from the remainder of 411 Fuller and combined with 1154 Wealthy to the north. And then the second part is the waiver of 2 parking spaces for each of the 2 new proposed dwelling units on the reconfigured 411 and 417 Fuller Avenue Southeast. Do you have any questions for me?
I have one. So can you please clarify, the reason that we're seeing the parking today is because that one block of Fuller is a neighborhood business, categorized as neighborhood business, and not the next block south, network residential?
That is correct. Thank you. This is not one of the blocks where parking can be waived or parking is not required. And I believe that this portion of Fuller is not, is designated
It's neighborhood business.
neighborhood business because it's the first block south of Wealthy.
Thank you.
Is there an alley here or not?
There
Behind it?
is not an alley on the west side of Fuller, but there is an alley on the east side of Fuller.
Okay. So you can't get to the back of the property?
No.
Okay.
Any other questions for Elizabeth? Okay, thanks, Elizabeth. We'll have the applicant come up and add what you would like.
Thank you. My name is Jacob Horner. I'm the head of real estate for Dwelling Place. We're a non-for-profit organization and provider of affordable housing that has been active in the city for 45 years. So happy to be here today and to be working on this project in the Baxter neighborhood. So about a year ago, we got awarded some home funds from the city that would allow us to develop housing at this site, and so we were awarded $125,000, and that requires us to sell these to homeowners that'll be 80% of area median income or below. So I did just want to mention that. Also, just a few quick things, and then I'm going to ask some of my colleagues to speak. But the reason we're asking for the parking waiver is because we own the adjacent lot at the corner of Wealthy and Fuller, so that's 1154, I believe. So we have parking in that lot that we would provide to the owners of these duplex units. So there would be an easement that would provide that parking, and we just feel that that would be a much more efficient design that would allow us to have more green space. The alternative is we'd have to have a driveway coming in behind the building and kind of coming through the parking lot, so we'd have to cannibalize parking spaces anyway to do that. And this is just a much more efficient design that I think, is consistent with the city's desire to maximize the green space. But we're very excited about this. I think there's a lot of demand for it. And because we have that adjacent parking lot, we can kind of make sure that this development won't create more of an issue with the neighborhood in terms of adding to the parking demand. So, Marielle, my colleague Marielle Meza is here. She's the project manager, and I don't know if I've covered everything or if you like. Okay. And then we also have James Lewis and his colleague Kevin from Pinnacle Construction, so they're here to answer any technical questions. I don't know if there's anything that Elizabeth already didn't cover. It seemed like that was very thorough, but so, and also I have Latricia Sosby here from our Community Building Engagement Department in case there's any questions about the engagement process. So,
Will you cover the engagement process? Thank you.
Yeah, so I don't know if anything ended up in your packet, I believe, but the engagement process wasn't as successful as we had hoped. We had the goal of engagement was to come alongside neighbors where they're already at. So instead of creating opportunities, I'm part of the neighborhood as well. So there are existing opportunities to connect with neighbors, and that was our intention. So an event was meant to be held, and then unfortunately it was canceled due to rain. In those events in the past, those are Baxter United events. So it's not the neighborhood association. It's a subgroup of neighbors that started to meet about 3 years ago. I'm actually part of the leadership team of that, and we've never had an event canceled, but unfortunately there was a tornado, and usually 200 plus neighbors who live in the Baxter neighborhood come out to those events. And so it would have been a really great existing opportunity to connect with individuals. And then with that being canceled, we did get some flyers out, which gave people an opportunity to fill out a survey and then also register for an online event on June 4th. And unfortunately, no one filled out the survey or signed up for the event, so we didn't end up hosting those virtually. However, and then the other thing on there was the neighborhood association. Fortunately, their meeting was postponed on last Monday and hopefully rescheduled for this past Monday, and it didn't end up happening. However, I did speak to the executive director, Marianne, who is a longtime Baxter, longtime executive director, but also a community member, and just talked about the development. For the most part, from her, I didn't hear any concerns about the two units. Just a lot of questions about the CLT, which I think is where a lot of neighbors sit. And then if I could just speak to my personal experience as being a community member and working in Baxter United, is that I've been talking about the development, not the particulars of the site plan and the zoning request, but just about the opportunity for affordable home ownership. And neighbors are really excited about that. It's one of the largest concerns about neighbors is, gentrification is happening there. People are selling their homes that they rent in, and they don't have the opportunity to buy those homes. So they're essentially having to leave the neighborhood that they've called home for a long time. And so when I say, hey, there's this opportunity we're hoping to come up with where you can buy into a neighborhood you live in, there's an overwhelming excitement about that. And then comes the questions about, okay, what is the CLT? How does this work? And so if I can just add with the CLT, I know it's not extremely relevant to the zoning changes, but we do have a scoring criteria that gives additional points to existing neighbors. And so when I add that, when I was talking to Marion about that, or when I tell that to neighbors, my neighbors, the excitement about, okay, not only is this an opportunity to buy, but I will get an additional preference per se because I live here already. There's a lot of excitement to that. So I know that we didn't get all the engagement around the zoning variances that we're asking for and the parking variances, but there has been a significant engagement and overwhelming hearing from neighbors that that they want affordable homeownership options. So I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay.
Any questions for the team?
I have just one. I like the idea of maintaining the green space, and then, of course, it makes sense if you own the property next door. Will those be like assigned spaces, or is there just enough parking that you can come in and out? Will they be assigned to the property owners, or?
I think we would assign them.
Okay.
So we've not figured out the details of that process yet, and what that looks like, but we think that
So
would be
that'd
the
be
best, the best way, yeah.
Great, thank you.
Designate those.
I have a question. I'm not sure who to direct this to, and I know that you've had conversations with staff, so I'm asking the question to bring it forward here. Can you explain your rationale for why you are equally distributing the lot into two 28-feet segments and perhaps not shifting the building and the lot 3 feet maybe to the south so that you have space along that north lot line to run a driveway in the future should the homeowner choose that is a preferred parking alternative than the shared parking? And I'm not suggesting that, this necessarily influenced the Planning Commission's decision, but more thinking as a planner long-term and the questions we get, you're effectively preventing that from happening with the dimensions that you're establishing. I'm just curious if you can speak to that rationale.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Kevin with Pinnacle Construction, and helped out with the design and the placement of the buildings, and we've looked at it, a multitude of ways, and I think the floor plan, the lot lines, as you see here, are very intentional to be equal from one side to the other, because the intent is actually that these would be eventually sold as two separate homes. That's why it's two single-family attached. And so you can see it even with the roof line division as well, is just to clean up that process for the future of maintenance, of use, and again, to kind of have those as two separate but equal responsibilities for the future owners. And so even down to the lot lines, as mentioned, if we were to shift the building, let's say south a few feet, then all of a sudden your yards are different sizes and you're potentially using the same driveway to access your parking, which then would bring up questions of who is in charge of maintaining that and who has, more rights to park in there and whatnot, so.
Yeah,
If I
Yeah.
could just add,
Sure.
just wanted to add one thing on that, but there are two existing single-family homes just south of this on that block on Fuller, and neither of those have driveways. The houses are pretty much lot line to lot line, very little setback there. So I think that'd be consistent with the existing housing stock in the area.
Yeah, to be clear, I'm not advocating against the case or suggesting that you should have parking, more just thinking in the future, those properties will no longer be under a unified control, and just whether you had thought that through to say, you're right, they wouldn't be equal, but we wouldn't preclude that opportunity in the future should the property owners at that time want to come to an arrangement. So I was just more interested in the rationale behind that.
Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Anything else? Any other questions? Okay, I'll have you take a seat. I will open up the public hearing for both of these cases. If you want to come forward. Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. I assume you don't have anything else you want to add? Okay, then I will turn to my fellow commissioners here for deliberation.
I think this represents a lot of what we've been talking over the last couple of years, is using space that's vacant and finding ways around different modes of transportation, which come up in every plan, and much-needed housing, affordable housing, like the drawings. So I'm in favor of this.
Yeah, I'm always encouraged to see the development of infill lots in the city, particularly if it's something that can help families obtain home ownership. So.
Yeah, I think the rezoning makes sense since this lot is already serving businesses in the TBA. And then with the parking waiver, I was in support even before knowing that there was going to be space provided in that lot, just because of the transit that's available here, a lot of micromobility options as well, and it's just like a nice walkable neighborhood.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
a lot of people are using other modes already.
I'm also in support. The rezone makes sense. There's not much to talk about there. Regarding the parking, I think that I was a little short-sighted on the planning commission's side to not consider the commercial, like this street designation as a not needing parking, because providing parking for residential uses in commercial corridors is probably a detriment to the commercial corridor, because it reduces density and, so anyways, I think this should have been approvable by right, to me, with no parking. And then this has nothing to do with this hearing, but I wish there was more density. I feel like that site could support it. I feel like the locations could support it. I understand that as a for sale product, this probably is the best way to do it, but additional units on this site, I could even get excited about that.
I'm hearing good consensus. Would anyone like to make the first motion?
I'll do that. Now therefore be it resolved that the Planning Commission recommends approval of the request of dwelling place of Grand Rapids to rezone a portion of 411 Fuller Avenue Southeast from TN LDR to zone district to TN TBA zone district, facilitate a lot split for the following reasons. The proposed zone district will be consistent with the purpose and intent of the master plan and zoning ordinance, including the future land use map, because the future land use map designates the property as a neighborhood center adjacent to compact neighborhood. The property is already improved with accessory parking intended to support the adjacent commercial use in the TN TBA. The proposed zone district will further the themes and objectives of the master plan, as well as relevant adopted area-specific plans, because the residential designation of the property does not adequately address the existing improvements, development needs, or current zoning ordinance regulations. The property to be rezoned can reasonably accommodate the requirements of the proposed zone district, because the property will be combined with 1154 Wealthy Southeast to the north and will meet the minimum lot area and width in the TN TBA zone district. Proposed zone district designations are compatible with the existing zone districts in the neighborhood, because the new zone district boundary will align with the existing zone district boundary line running east and west. The accessory surface parking use is not proposed to change. The rezoning will facilitate the development of higher density residential on a major corridor and will provide a transition between the primary business frontage and the adjacent single-family housing. Adequate public facilities that will safeguard the health, safety, and general welfare of the public already exist or will be provided at no additional public cost. The proposed zone districts or neighborhood classifications will not be detrimental to the financial stability and economic welfare of the city, because the proposed zone change may encourage greater utilization of subject property and adjacent properties, providing an avenue for additional housing density. The proposed zone district is consistent with the trend of development in the neighborhood, because the rezoning will adequately reflect this existing and proposed use of the property for commercial purposes. The property to be rezoned was improperly zoned or classified when the chapter was adopted or amended because the property was already being used for commercial purposes. Rezoning the property as proposed would not negatively impact the condition of any nearby parcels currently zoned TN, TBA, especially considering vacancy rates, current per square foot lease, or sales rates and other impacts because the rezoning will allow for the entire accessory surface parking lot to be located on one property.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have support?
Support.
Can I note that the property to be rezoned is the northerly 25.74 feet of the parcel, perhaps adding
The whole
it
thing, yeah.
to the resolution? That the ordinance will be specific, but just for purpose of the resolution, to be clear that it's a specific distance.
Agree.
Great. Still support?
Still support.
Fantastic.
Anything else, Mr. Hooker, before I?
All right,
Okay,
cool.
thank you, sorry.
All right, any additional discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. And then would love to hear the second motion if you would like to do it, yeah.
Yes, I'll do that one. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the Planning Commission approves the special land use and site plan review request of the dwelling place of Grand Rapids of all required parking for two proposed attached single-family residential dwellings at 411 and 417 Fuller Avenue Southeast for the following reasons. The proposed use will be consistent with the purpose and intent of the master plan and zoning ordinance, including the zone district, because the development will contribute to the variety of housing types while supporting modes of travel other than personal vehicles. A waiver of required parking to encourage infill development supports the desired coordination of land use and transportation. The proposed use will meet the site plan review standards of Section 5.12.8.e because, other than the request to waive parking, the project will conform to all provisions of the zoning ordinance. The proposed use will be compatible, harmonious, and appropriate with the character and uses of the neighborhood, adjacent properties, and the natural environment, because reduced dependence on personal vehicles is supported by the variety of commercial, institutional, and residential options within a short walking distance characteristic of traditional neighborhoods. The proposed use will not have adverse effects on the neighborhood because on-street parking and transit are available. The proposed use will not be detrimental, hazardous, or disturbing to existing or future uses or to the public welfare because excessive traffic is not anticipated with the attached single-family use. The proposed use will not adversely affect the walkability of the neighborhood, impair pedestrian circulation patterns, disrupt the continuity of the urban street wall, or hinder the creation of a pedestrian-oriented environment, because the arrangement of the proposed dwellings and site are intended to encourage an active street environment, and the elimination of two curb cuts on Fuller Avenue will enhance pedestrian safety. The proposed use will not retain as many natural features of the landscape as practicable because additional green space is desired in lieu of provision of on-site parking. The proposed use will not be detrimental to the financial stability and/or economic welfare of the city because the use is not anticipated to create nuisances or needs that will require additional city services. Be it further resolved that the following conditions of approval shall apply to this project: that the application and plans submitted by the applicant and signed, dated, and stamped by the planning director shall constitute the approved plans, except if plan elements do not meet ordinance requirements and/or as amended in this resolution. That the use shall operate according to the application and per testimony as recorded in the Planning Commission minutes. That this approval does not include any proposed signs, and any future signs shall be subject to the requirements of Article 15 of the ordinance and permits received prior to installation. that a land use development services permit, building permit, and all other required permits be obtained from the City of Grand Rapids prior to construction, demolition, or operation. That any expansion of the approved special land use requires an additional special land use review and approval by the Planning Commission. That the proposed use will comply with all other applicable city ordinances and policies and all state laws, and that this approval shall take effect 16 calendar days after the date of the Planning Commission's decision.
Wonderful. I'm wondering if under number 4, environment, you meant to say that it will retain as many natural features as possible or practicable because of the additional green space.
That sounded odd to me, and that is definitely what was intended. Thank you for that correction.
Thank you, yeah. All right, we have a motion. Do we have?
Support.
Okay, and support. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you very much. All right, moving right along, do we have anything for Planning Commission discussion?
I just had a question, hearing the constructive feedback of Commissioner Schwem and the Neighborhood Business District designation. Is that something that the Planning Commission would like staff to further explore?
Yeah, I was going to say, I wonder if if that fits into kind of our evaluation of the zoning ordinance as it moves forward, or if it's something that should be unique. I don't know. It's.
That's ultimately up to the commissions. If you want us to at least take a look at it, I honestly don't recall any specific reasons why we didn't include it, except I believe the understanding that those were largely in commercial districts. I don't remember thinking through the fact that there was legs going into the residential districts.
Sure.
So happy to take a look at that further and bring that discussion back before the Planning Commission and look for some direction before you make any sort of formal decision. It could certainly be part and parcel of the ordinance update. I just was hearing the comment and thought valid point and wondering if you wanted me to bring it back sooner than later.
I would be fine with that.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that. I think this might have been a different discussion had the applicant not owned the next door commercial building and had that commercial client, had parking concerns and said, wait, if you don't put parking here, they're just going to park in my lot, and I don't, we can't have, we didn't, so that may have made this easier than, so I do wonder about that, if that continues to be an issue in a business district, that businesses might be concerned about that.
Yeah, that's fair. I wasn't thinking about it that way. So I'm happy to visit it through the zoning ordinance revisions, which is, a couple of years worth of process or sooner. It doesn't matter to me.
Did we highlight the street typology? Apologies if it was in the staff report, but in the staff report?
I'm afraid I don't recall.
Okay, no, that's fine.
And I don't remember.
That's all good. Yeah, so maybe that would be something that would be nice to include in just the materials that were provided, is just the street typology that we're working with.
Okay, well, give that some thought over the next couple of weeks, and we can circle back on this discussion. I just thought I'd put it out there since I thought it was a valid comment that was presented, and certainly we can wait or we can bring it forward sooner than later for discussion, but I'll let you think through that and take a look at the maps yourselves and decide what you'd like to do.
Awesome, thank you. Anyone else have anything for discussion? Okay, I will open it up for public comment. If anyone wants to address the Planning Commission for public comment, now's the time. Seeing none, I will close public comment. And we stand adjourned.
Thank you.